Today is Gita Jayanti, the day on which Lord Sri Krishna spoke this wonderful Bhagavad Gita to his friend Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. The speciality of Bhagavad Gita is that it is personally spoken by Krishna himself, the Supreme Lord. It is not a knowledge given by some ordinary people. It is given to us by God himself. That is why the title Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavat in Sanskrit means Supreme Lord, God. Gita means the words spoken by God. So these are the words spoken by God. Just like if an important person, he goes and he speaks, the press will immediately capture all those words. What did he speak? What kind of announcements he made? What instructions he gave? They'll be very eager to capture all that because he's a very important person. So the most important person in this world is God himself. And when that God speaks personally, and that is being recorded as Bhagavad Gita, then why did God speak? What is the reason that God spoke? The reason was Arjuna's question, Arjuna's situation. Arjuna's situation and Arjuna's question is something similar to all of us in our day-to-day life. It is no different. Why Bhagavad Gita is so famous, popular, not because of some blind faith of some particular religion, or it is some sentimentalism of some particular religion, whether it is applicable or not applicable, simply because it belongs to our religion, so we have to read. No. It has practical relevance and application to our lives. Arjuna's question in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita was very practical. What is that? He asked question that should I fight or not fight? Now you all may say, oh, I don't have any war to fight. So why should I read Bhagavad Gita? Actually, fight refers to some of our duties. For Arjuna, fighting was his duty. So we all have various other duties. Arjuna's question was little more broader later in the second chapter. His question was, I'm confused about my duty. Dharma sammudha chetaha. Dharma means duty. So Arjuna, he made his question a little broader, that I'm confused about my duty. And next, Arjuna also told, in the next second chapter, 8th verse, in the 7th verse, Arjuna is saying, Karpanya doshopahata swabhava pruchami tvam dharma sammoda chetaha. Dharma sammoda, I'm confused about my responsibilities. I'm confused about my duty. This is the first question. And next he says in the 8th verse, Nahi prapashyami mamapano dhyat. Nahi prapashyami. I don't see what is good for me. And he says, I don't know. Yat shokam uchoshanam indriyanam. I'm going through some kind of pain. I'm going through some kind of misery, suffering. I don't know how to come out of this. Basically, if you clearly say, there are two questions that Arjuna is asking. He's asking what to do, what not to do. And secondly, he's asking, how can I be happy? How can I be happy? So if you even more simplify it, the question that Arjuna is asking is, how do I make my decision which makes me happy? So that is exactly all of our question in our life. What decision I should make and how do I make that decision so that I can be happy. I don't want to go through any suffering. I don't want to go through any problem. So Arjuna's question is irrespective of which country we belong to, our nationality, race, gender, profession, age, everybody has same question. How to make decisions, how to clear my confusion, and how to be happy in life. And the answer that Krishna gives clarifies all these doubts. Now, how to make decision in our life? It's a very interesting question. How to make any decision in our life? Let's take a simple practical example. Now, if I'm driving or if I'm walking on the road, how is that I'm making decisions of going left, going right, going straight? Okay. When we say we know where we have to go, number one is destination. When you know your destination, then left, right, and all that becomes clear. So why can't any place be your destination? Like for example, you go to railway station or airport or bus stand. Why don't you get into any bus? All the buses are going to some destination. Why don't we get into any bus? If the destination is our goal, every bus is taking us to some destination. So when you say our destination, then there are interestingly two things are involved in this. My destination. Destination and me. Are you able to see this? My destination. So there are two things that we need to know. One is me, other one is destination. So your destination becomes clear to you when you know who are you. For example, something happens and you forget who are you. Let's say your memory goes away. Some accident happens where your memory fades away. You don't know now who are you. You don't able to remember who are you, what is your relationship, who are your people and all. So will you be able to make any decision? What is your destination? That means it is so interesting to watch. The most important thing that is required to make any destination is the awareness of our identity. Awareness of our identity. Who I am. This is the most important requirement to make any decision. If we do not know who am I, then I can't make any decision. Practically, I can't make any decision. Exactly like you go to a bus station. Why don't you get into any bus? We don't get into any bus. We get into a particular bus because I know where I have to go. That means I know my destination. And when you say my destination comes from me. Who am I? Okay, now I want to go to my parents' place. That means I should know who I am and who are my parents. The details about identity. So that's exactly Krishna does in Bhagavad Gita. The first point that he discusses in Bhagavad Gita to help Arjuna to solve his problem, how to make decision, how to be happy, is actually to know what is the real identity of Arjuna. Now Arjuna's question is, should I fight or not fight? So now to take this decision, should I fight or not, then you should know your fundamental identity. Who are your identities? What all your identities are? So Bhagavad Gita deals with loss of identity, conflict of identity, hierarchy of identity, and features of our identity. What are those things? Loss of identity. right? Conflict of identity, hierarchy of identity, and features of identity. Arjuna actually had kind of loss of identity and conflict of identity. I'll tell what is that. Now when Arjuna said, I don't want to fight, he kind of almost forgot himself, who he is. Why am I speaking all these things? So there was loss of identity. Secondly, even if he got his identity, that I am a Kshatriya, that is a professional identity, even there was a conflict of identity with his relationship identity. Arjuna also has a relationship identity. With Bhishma, his relationship identity as a dearmost grandson. With his dearmost teacher, Drona, he has got identity of a favorite disciple. With other people, he has got some identity as some uncle or whatever, so many people are there. So, between these two identity, the professional identity and the relationship identity, there was conflict. Which one should be followed? Should I follow my professional identity of being a Kshatriya and fight? Or should I follow my relationship identity and look at my relatives? So Krishna spoke, one is your professional identity. Other one is your relation identity. Above all those things, there is spiritual identity. Krishna introduced in the second chapter the spiritual identity, one more dimension to make decisions. Because there was a conflict between the two. How do you resolve a conflict? You resolve conflict by bringing a new dimension to it. And the new dimension was spiritual identity. Because both professional identity and relationship identity, they were coming from something called body. Both were coming from a bodily identity. Because I am this body, so I am a Kshatriya. I am a Kshatriya body, so I am a Kshatriya. So this body belongs to Bhishma and all these people, so I am Kaurava or Pandava, like this. So to solve this conflict, Krishna elevated that identity to a new dimension and called spiritual identity. Arjuna's, the identity which is above both the identity is actually the Atma, the soul, spiritual identity. And this is called hierarchy of identity. Whenever there is a conflict, then immediately we have to set the hierarchy all right. Always confusion and conflict comes when there is a confusion about hierarchy. Like in any organization, why conflict and confusion comes? That means hierarchy is not very clear. What do you mean by hierarchy? Anybody can define? What is hierarchy? The distribution of roles and responsibilities, the power. Like in any organization, there is a topmost decision-making person, let's say CEO, or above CEO, there is a chairman or an owner, and then below the owner is CEO, and below the CEO, there will be some other people, and finally, there are so many workers, right? So, if there are two people, if there is a confusion among the two people, then they'll approach their reporting manager or their authority. So the authority is the one who will solve what is right, what is wrong. So when Arjuna was confused whether I should fight or I should take care of my relatives, their happiness and their well-being and all that. So to solve this conflict, Krishna cleared the hierarchy of identities. Okay, now we all have many identities. Physical identity. What do you mean by physical identity? Arjuna is a man. Was there any gender conflict? No, there was no gender conflict. So, Arjuna's gender identity, there was no problem. So, professional identity. What is Arjuna's professional identity? He's a Kshatriya, he's an administrator. So was there a conflict, confusion? Yes, there was a conflict and confusion. Should I fight or not? So this is my profession. Should I act or not? And then there were relationship identity. What do you mean by relationship identity? Somebody, let's say some 2-3 of you go and meet somebody. How do you introduce? This is my father, I'm the son, and this is my mother. So at that time, you're talking something about your relationship identity. You're not saying, this is man, I'm also a man, this is woman. This is not the way we introduce ourselves. Here is one woman, I'm a man, and here also man. Oh, here is one more, so younger woman. No, we say, this is father, this is mother, this is sister, and this is me. At that time, our identity is relationship identity. When a family goes, we don't say, here is a doctor, and here is a mother, teacher, and here is one student. We don't talk about our professional identity. We talk about our relationship identity. And in some other place, we only focus on our professional identities. So some of us, we go, who are you all? Can you introduce? Then say, oh, here is a doctor, here is an engineer, here is a lawyer, and I am some scientist. So at that time, we are focusing not on gender. We are not focusing on our relationship identity. We are focusing on our professional identity. So we have got innumerable identities. So many identities. Nationality. In some place, we focus on our nationality. We say, I'm an Indian, here is a Korean, here is an African, here is an American. That time you don't say male, female. Right? So there are so many identities. But when there are only identities, when there are multiple identities, which identity is the topmost? Which identity is the second topmost? Which identity is the third topmost? This clarity is required. And this is called hierarchy of identities. Hierarchy of identity. When the hierarchy is very clear, the command, the direction in which the command comes also is very clear. If there is a confusion among the employees, now what to do? One direction will come. Who told this? No, one more employee only told. Then nobody will take it seriously. He said, no, CEO told this. Then everybody takes it seriously because it is coming from the topmost identity in this organization. So now, Krishna helped Arjuna to, first of all, define his true identity. That is, not the body, your spiritual identity as soul. And next he defined how soul is above mind and body, intelligence, ego. And this is the hierarchy of identity. And from that identity, Arjuna has to now make decision. If he makes from the identity of a body, then he will not be able to fight. He'll say, oh, the body of Bhishma and Drona and other relatives will be destroyed. So that is not good. So that is where he was feeling very difficult to make that decision. Now as an identity of a professional identity also, he was not able to make decision. Because in that profession also he was feeling how being a Kshatriya, I can create Varna Sankara. And how being a Kshatriya, we can attack, for sake of some small property. I don't need this property, all those things. So even there was, so then as a soul, as Atma, you have to make decision. Many times in our life, all of us go through this confusion. What to do, what not to do. What exactly I should do in my life? This is $1 million question. Right? So to make decision, we need reference point. While we are driving, we need map. Likewise, to make any decision, you need reference point. As per your reference point, your decisions will be apt. If your reference point is body, one kind of decisions you make. If your reference point is mind, one kind of decisions will be made. If your reference point is ego, then another kind of decisions will be made. And if your reference point is the soul, then different kind of decisions will be made. Now Krishna in Bhagavad Gita is asking Arjuna that he should make a decision based on soul's reference point, not ego, not mind, and not the body. You see how Krishna is teaching the whole world how to resolve any conflict or how to make decision. Now it is interesting thing, some people may say, oh, Bhagavad Gita is a book in Hinduism which teaches people that you should fight. It promotes war. It increases violence because it was spoken to make somebody fight. How can this book be a sacred book which promotes violence? Right? Krishna told Arjuna, go and fight. It promotes violence. Why should we read such a book? Actually, if you see carefully Bhagavad Gita, nowhere Krishna is saying to Arjuna that you should fight because of your emotional reasons. See how you were insulted, how you people were mistreated, how you were cheated. In fact, Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita Arjuna to go beyond his emotions. What are those? He says, Sukha dukkhe same kritva labha labhau jayapajayau tasmad yudhyaya yudhyasva. He's saying that labha alabha, profit and loss. That should not be the reason for you to make decision. Oh, you see how because of Kauravas we made so much loss. We lost our kingdom, Indraprastha, right? They took away all our property. So, labha, alabha. That should not be the reason for you to make decision or to fight. Sukha dukkha, who will be very happy if you get this kingdom. That is why I should fight. No. Your decision should not be even focused on bodily comforts, sukha dukkha. Labha, alabha are not even for ego satisfaction. Jaya, apajaya. We should fight because we have to win. Success. Win. We should always be successful people, victorious people. This victory is very important for us because that is for ego. See how Krishna throughout Bhagavad Gita again discourages Arjuna not to make decision based on mana, apamana, sukha, dukkha, labha, labha, jaya, apajaya, ninda, stuti. Oh, stuti. Stuti means glorification, appreciation. If I win this war, everybody will glorify me. So that's why I should win. Krishna is saying you should be equal. Both when somebody scolds you, they make allegations and bring bad name to you, or even they appreciate you. You should be equal when you win and when you lose. You should be equal when there is a sukha and dukkha. You see, Bhagavad Gita is so clear that your decision cannot be based on any of these things. And next Bhagavad Gita says, neither your decision should be based on satisfying your senses. There is so much discussion in Bhagavad Gita about controlling our senses. Oh, okay, it is not about taking revenge. Okay, let's win this war to actually, be happy, sense gratification. No. That means decision to fight should be made not keeping our sense gratification, not keeping our ego, not keeping our emotional gratification, and not keeping even bodily comforts. And Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, you should not make decision because of kama, because of krodha, because of lobha, because all three of them are gateways of hell. Kama, krodha, lobha. Tasmat naraka. They will take you to hell. So Arjuna cannot make decision. I should fight because I'm so angry at this, people called Kauravas. No, Krishna is saying don't make based on your anger. Don't make based on karma. If I win, so I'll become a big king. Whole India, whole planet will come under. No karma. Lobha, greed. No, why only our Indraprastha will get Hastinapur also. In fact, we'll get so many things. No lobha, no kama, no krodha. Just see how the decision making cannot be based on any of these reasons. The true decision making, the real decision making. Then what should be the real decision? Based on what it should be? When you say the decision should be from the reference point of the soul, then the next so many questions will come. What is soul? What is soul? Features of the soul are features of your real identity. Now if you take the features of various identities, like when you say, I am the son, I am the son. This is a relationship identity. Or I am the father, I am the mother. These are also called identity. I am an Indian, I am a doctor. What are the features of this identity? First feature of this identity is, it is a temporary identity. It's a temporary identity. It is subjective identity. If one, let's say you cannot call yourself as a father if you don't have a child. The moment you don't have a child, you can't call yourself, I'm a father. When you say father, immediately people will ask, where is your child? Where are your children? That means without child, you can't call yourself as father. So your identity is dependent on something. And you call yourself that I'm a man. But in the this how long I can remain man, how long I can remain woman. When you die, in the next life you may be something else. You may be a woman or you may be something. So these are all not permanent identities. So when you make a decision, now you tell, is it a permanent decision or is it a temporary decision? If you're looking for temporary decision, then you can keep temporary reference points. If you're looking for permanent happiness, because goal of my decision is I want to be happy. Now the question is, do you want to be temporarily happy? Then you can keep temporary identities in the mind and can make decisions. But if you say, no, I want to be happy always, permanently I want to be happy, then you have to keep your permanent identity to make the decision. And when you compare body identity, emotional identity, ego identity, and the soul spiritual identity, out of all, the spiritual identity as soul is the permanent identity. Because Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Antavanta ime deha nityasyokta sharirinaha. Antavanta ime deha. This deha, your body, anta, it is going to end. What does not end is nityaha. Nityasya uktaha. In Bhagavad Gita 2nd chapter, Krishna says, Nityasyoktaha. Nityaha uktaha. Ukta means, Krishna is saying, it is said, Shariri, this, the one who reside inside the body, that is eternal, that is permanent, and that is who you are. The Atma who is inside this body is permanent, and that is who you are really. You are not this body. Then what is this soul? Soul is eternal. It cannot be killed. It cannot be destroyed. And then it continues to exist. That is where the concept of reincarnation comes. What do you mean by reincarnation? Because your soul, whenever the body keeps changing, that is called reincarnation. And then what is this soul? In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Mamaivamsha jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana. He says, the soul is actually part of God. part and parcel of God. You see, you're getting another knowledge about who you are. Mama Amsha, Amsha. You belong to Krishna. You have relationship with Krishna. You have relationship with God. You belong to God. That means you're also divine. You're also spiritual. You're also divine. You're not some ordinary. Actually, Bhagavad Gita teaches that we are not ordinary. We are extraordinary. This feeling of extraordinary, this experience of extraordinary is what Bhagavad Gita teaches. So, the soul is eternal. Soul belongs to Krishna. Soul belongs to God. And we have all the qualities of God. Now, when you hear this, next confusion comes, one small doubt comes. So, am I equal to God? So, that also Krishna clarifies in Bhagavad Gita. He says, no. Krishna says, He is supreme. Mattha parataram nanyat kinchid asti dhananjaya. Above Him, there is nothing. But above us, there is God. So, there is difference. Both are not same. So that means now all those things should give us the reference point to make any decision in our life. Arjuna should fight, not because Kauravas cheated them, not because Arjuna is angry at Kauravas, not because if he defeats them, he'll get on bigger property to enjoy, Kama. No. Arjuna should fight keeping the soul. He is a soul and he has relationship with Krishna. And of course, some more topics comes like what is my relationship with Krishna? How do I experience that relationship? That is where yoga come into picture. Krishna speaks about yoga. Yoga is about relationship science with God. It is relationship science. How do we revive our relationship? And how do we act in that relationship? And what experience we get in that relationship is a topic of yoga in Bhagavad Gita. And then Krishna speaks. Very interesting thing. Then okay, you said I belong to God. Soul belongs to God. Then who is God? Who is God? What are the activities of this God? What is the location of this God? Where does this God stay? What is the relationship with God and difference between us and God? All these topics also get covered. All these are required for us to make decision in our life. When you say identity, you are part of God's identity. Your identity is a part of God's identity. It is not an independent identity. Your identity is part of God's identity. That means your decision should be part of God's decision. This is where that conclusion comes. So the real decision making conclusion is this. To make decision, you should know who are you. Like in bus station, where am I going? What is my destination? Which bus I should get into requires what is your destination. And to know your destination, you should know who you are. If you don't know what is your name, where is your house, who are your relatives, then you don't know. Whichever bus you can get in, you can go. When you know your home, where your parents, where your family, that means your identity, that becomes your destiny. So your identity, according to Bhagavad Gita, is part of God's identity. Mama Amsha. You are part of Krishna. Then it is important to understand who Krishna is. Then it is important to understand what is Krishna's plan is. And that is where Krishna tells his plan. What is that? Dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Now you see Bhagavad Gita is talking about God's decision. What is God's decision? To establish dharma, to protect devotees, and to annihilate miscreants. This is God's decision. Because you are part of God, your decision should be part of God's decision. Just like in your home, you cannot do whatever you want to do. What you want to do should be part of what your family wants to do. Generally speaking. If you say, let's say if you say, oh, I want to marry this person, then the whole family will get disturbed. Arey, we had a different decision. We had a different plan. Now your plan doesn't match with our plan. This is not part of our plan. Because you belong to a family. Your identity is part of that family. Like that, my identity is part of God's identity. I am not independent. What I feel, what I desire, everything has got connection with what God feels and what God desires. Because both of us are interconnected. Both of us are interconnected. That's what Bhagavad Gita is speaking. Both of us are interconnected. Because both of us are interconnected, our decision should also be a consolidated decision. It has to be a cooperative decision. And now Arjuna should fight or not fight. That depends on knowing Arjuna's identity, which is part of Krishna's identity, and Krishna's decision. What is Krishna's decision? First decision is that he has a desire to establish dharma. Now should Arjuna, by fighting that war, will it help Krishna to establish dharma? Yes. So will it help Krishna to remove the miscreants? Yes. If Arjuna fights, will it help Krishna to protect devotees? Yes. So Arjuna should fight. Arjuna not fight because Arjuna is angry. Arjuna should not fight because Arjuna has got a karma that I need more kingdom. Arjuna should not fight because of greed. But Arjuna should fight being the part of God's plan, being the part of God's decision. So this is the blueprint of Bhagavad Gita for all of us to make any decision in our life. How to make decision in my life? Now you know very clearly. Tell me how to make decision. First of all, we should get what is God's plan. If you don't know what is God's plan, your plan is very dangerous plan. Your plan is, it can get into some trouble. That is where karma philosophy comes into picture. Why karma comes into picture? Because if you do anything which is not as per the plan of the God, then there will be some repercussion which you have to face. If you do anything which is as per the plan of the God, there will be no repercussion. You will be elevated in your life. So the whole life, the human life, is all about aligning ourselves as per the plan of the God. And God is giving a bigger plan in Bhagavad Gita. What is that bigger plan? He says, God has got two types of plan. One is immediate plan. Another one is always what God's plan is. Long-term plan, or the plan which exists always. That is Mameti. My plan is how to take you back to me. In Bhagavad Gita, if you see how many times Krishna says, I want to establish dharma and all, that is one or two times, that's all. But how many times he says, you will come back to me, you'll come back to me, you'll come back to me? Many times. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mamanusmara yudhyacha mayarpita mano buddhir mam evaishyasi asamshayaha. In this way you will come to me. Like this, at least some 10, 20 times Krishna says, you'll come to me, you'll come to me, you come back to me, you'll come back to me. So Krishna's bigger plan, more than establishing dharma, more than protecting devotees and removing those bad people, was a plan for that time. But taking us back to Krishna is the eternal plan of Krishna. So now the decision that we make in our life should be part of this plan. For example, now you should ask, which profession I should choose? Now this is a good question. Now I need to make a decision. You have to ask now, in this profession, will I get an opportunity to go back to Krishna by being in this profession? Will I get an opportunity to go back to Krishna? Because that's a plan of Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. If the answer is yes, then you made your decision. Go ahead. Because obviously we cannot make our decision based on feelings and emotions, labha. Nowadays what people are making decision, should I do this job or not do this job? What is the package? इसमें 10 लाख का पैकेज है, उसमें 20 लाख का पैकेज है. चलो डिसीजन हो गया, 20 लाख का पैकेज करो. So labha, alabha. You are making decision based on profit and loss. Should I take this position? The packages are same, but इसमें थोड़ा more recognition है और थोड़ा ज़्यादा respect मिलेगा. उसमें कोई recognition है. अरे वो wherever more respect is there, that you take. Mana, apamana. In this position, more facilities are there. They'll give me car, they'll give me bungalow. Sukha, take, no dukkha, only two. So our decisions are all based on sukha, dukkha, mana, apamana, labha, jaya, apajaya. But Krishna is saying, you make your decision not based on any of these things, but based on you, who you are, and your relationship with God, because who you are is part of who God is. You cannot exist without God, and God, exists with you. That is the meaning of absolute truth. Mamayivamsha, you are part of God. So your plan, your decision also should be part of God's plan, part of God's decision. So it's so clear what we should do in our life. Like Arjuna, today's so nice this verse, Krishna says, end. This is the last shloka that Krishna speaks. This 72nd verse that today what we recited is the last shloka in Bhagavad Gita that Krishna speaks. Kachideta shrutam partha. O Partha, did you listen carefully? Did you hear? Shrutam? Tvaya ekagrena chetasa ekagrena. With all your attention. Did you listen? Kachit ajnana sammoha. Your illusion and ignorance. How to make decision. What gives me happiness. Has it gone? That illusion, has it gone? Pranataste dhananjaya. Pranatasa means has it gone? Sammoha ajnana is gone. Now you see what Arjuna is answering next. 73. Arjuna uvacha nashto moha smritir labdha nashta moha. Now all my confusions are cleared. I know very clearly now. I have no confusion now, no illusion. Tvat prasadena mayachyuta. Because of your mercy, because of your kind grace upon me, I know now. Sthitosmi gata sandeha. Sandeha. What do you mean by sandeha? Doubts. Gata sandeha. All my doubts are gone. I have no doubts now. Very clear. Right? Karishye vachanam tava. I will do as per your words. Now it is so important for us to know, should I fight or not fight? Bhagavad Gita is not a book that promotes violence. Bhagavad Gita is a book that promotes self-control. You should fight not for your emotion reasons, not for profit loss reasons, not for your ego reasons, but if it is part of God's plan. That is what we must be interested in checking. So, Bhagavad Gita, the spirit of Bhagavad Gita is this. And this Gita Jayanti, today we must, really put efforts to understand this. What is the spirit of Bhagavad Gita? The spirit of Bhagavad Gita is what Arjuna is demonstrating. Karishye vachanam tava. I will act as per your words. And what is Krishna's words? Krishna's words is, Arjuna, you should take decision based on this plan. What is that? My plan, how you can come back to me. See, it is very clear, no? Krishna is there only. Oh, Krishna, you want me to come to you? Okay, wait. So Arjuna is there in the chariot, he can get down and go to Krishna. This is not what Krishna is referring to. He is referring in Bhagavad Gita. What is that? He says, Na tad bhasayate suryo na shashanko na pavakaha. He says, Tad dhama paramam mama. Mama dhama. I have an abode. I have a place. And that place you should come to me. In that place where you should come to me. And if you come there, you will not come back to this place. And what is this place? Janma mrityu jara vyadhi dukkha doshanu darshanam. See, Krishna's reason to fight in the Kurukshetra battle is not just the Kauravas and what they have done. This battle is not about Kauravas and what they have done. It is much, much more than that. And what is that? Going back to Krishna. So always, this brings us to conclusion that when we make decision, we should see two things. What is my immediate responsibility? What is my ultimate responsibility? What was Arjuna's immediate responsibility? Fighting in that Kurukshetra war, his immediate responsibility was to remove the bad government of the Duryodhana and establish Yudhishthira Maharaj who can give proper government. That is an immediate responsibility. But that immediate responsibility should take me towards my ultimate responsibility. What is my ultimate responsibility? That by doing this, will I be going to Krishna? Now that comes to our life. Let's say I'm a man or a woman. My job is to cook in the kitchen. Now you should ask this question. Like Arjuna. By fighting, am I going back to Krishna? Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, yes. By fighting in this war, which I want you to fight, you will come back to me. So now cooking. Let us ask this question. By cooking, will I go back to Krishna? What do you all say? By cooking, can I go back to Krishna? Yeah, by simply, you cannot. That means if I simply fight, if I simply participate in any war, does it mean I'll go back to Krishna? Is that the message of Bhagavad Gita? That means anybody can use this book to fight and create war in this world. No. This war is authorized by Krishna. This war is desired by Krishna. So now the question. So by cooking, will I go back to Krishna? If you do cooking as per Krishna's desire, as per Krishna's will, even that cooking will take you to Krishna. That is why this Bhagavad Gita is so special. Bhagavad Gita does not ask anybody to change their profession. Krishna did not ask Arjuna to become something else. Oh, now you are a Kshatriya, you become now sannyasi. Or you become a Brahmana. Brahmana is better than Kshatriya, so you become better Brahmana. No. Bhagavad Gita doesn't speak any of these things. It simply says, change your attitude. Change the purpose of your activities. Right? So now Arjuna was fighting. But that fight has to be for Krishna, approved by Krishna. It should be for Krishna, approved by Krishna. That is very important. So, can I go back to Krishna by cooking? Yes, if it is for Krishna and approved by Krishna. Okay, for Krishna, I am cooking some chicken biryani. For Krishna only. But next question comes, is it approved by Krishna? If it is not approved by Krishna, then even though you're thinking that I'm cooking for Krishna, it is not taking you for Krishna. That is why anybody can declare on war and say, for Krishna only I'm fighting. Say in Bhagavad Gita, in Mahabharata, Arjuna fought for Krishna. I'm also fighting for Krishna. The next question is it approved by Krishna? Is it approved by Krishna? Okay, can I be a doctor and go back to Krishna? Yes or no? Yes. How? The answer is yes also, answer is no also. When it is yes, when it is no? If it is? If you act in that profession in a manner that increases your attachment to Krishna. Every patient that comes to you, you see them as Amsha of Lord Krishna. That they all belong to Krishna. They all have relationship with Krishna. Like this, act. And that increases your remembrance of Krishna. Then, you can go back to Krishna. So, the speciality of Bhagavad Gita is that in any profession, in any stage of life, situation of life, you can actually go back to Krishna, which is the ultimate goal of all the Vedas. That is why Krishna says, Antakale cha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram yaprayati samadbhavam nati astra asamshayaha. Without any doubt, you will come to me. So, going back to Krishna is a predominant plan of Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. Establishing dharma, defeating Kauravas is that time, at that point in time, what was required. But what is all the time that Krishna's plan? That we have to go back to him. That is the plan of Krishna. Now through Arjuna, Krishna is giving that plan. Now Arjuna is saying that Karishye vachanam tava, I will fight as per your plan. So now we should also live our life. Every time we should ask in ourselves to make decision, is it part of God's plan? My plan should be part of God's plan. That's all. Same thing. It is not very difficult to understand. Like you go to government and tell, I want to do this. The government will first check, is it part of our plan also or not? If it is as per the plan of the government and your plan is alignment with the government plans, part of the government plan, they'll encourage you, they'll give you permission, they'll give you facilities. You go to government and say that tomorrow I want to put some 10 bombs and destroy some 10 places. Please, give me some permission. The government will immediately reject your proposal and also put you into jail. Why? Because your plan is not part of government's plan. You have a desire, I want to kill people, and go to government and say, I want to be part of your desire. You have a desire. Government also has a desire that we should kill people. But they are our enemies in the border. Anybody who is trying to harm our country, such people you kill. This desire, I want to be part. Okay, come on, join our army. The government is encouraging your desire to kill people. But if you say, no, I want to kill a good citizen inside the country, which is not the plan of the which is not the plan of the government, it will not be encouraged. So, how to make decisions in our life? Bhagavad Gita teaches, ultimately your decision should be part of God's decision, God's plan, which is possible only when you realize that you are soul and you are part and parcel of God. Body, I'm not this body. I'm not this mind. I'm not this ego. So, my decisions also should not be bodily decisions, emotional decisions, and ego decisions. But it should be spiritual decision. So, at last, in the beginning, Arjuna was talking about possessions. What is it? Possessions. Possessions means kingdom, all this. Then he was talking about relations. He said, for sake of relation, I don't want this possession. Let them only keep. For me, important is Bhishma, Drona and all. But Krishna said, above possession, above relation, there is devotion. Above possession, above your relation, there is something called devotion. From that devotion, you should make decisions, not from possessions and relations. And that is the spirit of Bhagavad Gita. And when we understand the spirit of Bhagavad Gita and live our life, then what is the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita? Sanjaya says, conclusion is very, very clear. Yatra yogeshwaro Krishna tatra partha dhanurdharaha tatra shrir vijayo bhuter dhruva nitir matir mama. This is the conclusion. Your life will be filled with opulence, all good things, victory, everything, because your decision is part of God's decision. And God will be with you. When that is the case, God will always be with you. And this is how we can make our life happy. With this, we'll end this. Bhagavad Gita ki Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki Nitai Gaur Premanande.